Thank you for being here with us!
Hello, I'm Shanta Thake, Lincoln Center's Chief Artistic Officer. This summer, all summer, we're celebrating all things New York City with the Festival of New York, a summer-long celebration of everything that makes this the greatest city in the world, and a call to residents and visitors alike to come together to fuel the city's recovery. Visit festivalofny.com to learn more about the 300-plus partners and countless events that have come together to make this summer so spectacular. Last month, we took a look at engagements led by New York City's 3 major library systems. And stay tuned for more on that. The library's Dance Party NYC, a citywide dance festival to which all are welcome, takes place on Saturday, August 6th. Today, we're taking another look at an element of the festival, small businesses. Small Business Weekends are a series of unique activations and offers focused on entrepreneurship in each borough. Today, I'm joined by Oma Holloway, Chief Operating Officer of Bridge Street Development Corporation, Alexandra Silversmith, Executive Director of Alliance for Coney Island, and Marco Nobles, Second Vice Chairman of Harlem Week, to discuss their role in Festival of New York through Small Business Weekends. Welcome. Can you speak a little bit about the cultural and economic impact of small businesses in this city, particularly coming out of this 2-year pandemic?
So in Coney Island, we had a really rough 2020. The amusements were not permitted to open, and that is the main attraction. The beaches also opened, if I remember correctly, I think like 3 weeks late. So our foot traffic was dismal, to say the least. We had retail shops open and some restaurants and for takeout. So the impact was just major, and we're really excited to be back. 2021 was our test. We did not have as many events, and when we heard about Festival of New York, we were actually really excited because we were going to jump all in and really try to have our businesses thrive through public programming to bring people back to Coney Island.
That's amazing. It's. I think we'll see as we move through all of these, the way that the businesses that we are working with and who you're serving in particular really do tell the story of the neighborhood. So much of how we define these neighborhoods is really based in these small businesses, these entrepreneurs who have come to these neighborhoods to start their dream job, basically.
Yeah.
Marcos, can you tell us a little bit about what's happening at Harlem Week and in Harlem in general?
Well, sure. Harlem Week, first I should mention that Harlem Week is a program of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce. The Greater Harlem Chamber is the parent of Harlem Week. That's important because the Chamber has to take a very unique role during the pandemic because the Chamber really is about relationships and community, and one of its mottos is the business of businesses people. So what we saw with businesses closing and restaurants, because over the last decade, we see so much in terms of growth in Harlem and its restaurants, et cetera. You see all of that closing, and like you said, with the foot traffic, dwindling to almost nothing. What we also saw was a real food insecurity that is still going on. And so the Chamber, worked to create a program called Support Harlem Now, which was, help feed those who needed, those who are underemployed or became unemployed and homeless and hungry, and that still goes on now. We also, worked on making sure that something we've been doing with closing the digital divide, which relates to Harlem Week as well, because Harlem Week had to pivot from being a large in-person festival to an online festival.
Yeah.
And so, being able to have the opportunity for people to have laptops in their homes or be able to visit with their family who had to be hospitalized, and kids being able to remote school, do remote schoolwork. So the Chamber took a very unique position in terms of a business organization, doing work in terms of service of the community as well, that really helps bring business back. And hopefully now as we're coming closer to being out of the pandemic, we can see some of that's kind of changing, and people are getting back to what is a new normal at this point, hopefully.
Yeah, that's amazing. This idea of helping businesses really pivot and bring virtual work into what they're doing and virtual work into even what the chamber is doing, but then giving the audience, the neighborhoods, access to that technology and making sure that there's still a connection between individuals and the small businesses that they love.
Yes.
And Oma, can you talk a little bit about what's happening in Bed-Stuy?
Yes. During the pandemic, we had Bridge Street Development Corporation received a grant to do a commercial district needs assessment at the beginning of the pandemic, where we were able to really look at what was happening to the businesses in real time. So we were able to take an inventory of the businesses. We were able to find out what the impact of COVID was having on our small businesses, especially our Black and brown businesses in the community. But most important, we were able to find out what the vacancy rate was going on, and we found out that we had vacancy rates on some of our business corridors of up to 20 to 40%. So that gave us an opportunity to kind of figure out what we could do to help the businesses in terms of staying afloat, but also what was the city providing to help our small businesses get through this pandemic, as well as maybe even find opportunities to pivot. Yeah. And so we took advantage of the Open Streets program. And we're able to do a 6-block full closure on Tompkins Avenue to help support our businesses in partnership with the Tompkins Avenue Merchants Association. Bridge Street has had a long relationship with these businesses on Tompkins Avenue. When it started off, maybe they had a festival that maybe had about 10 businesses on 2 blocks. Through the pandemic, we made a conscious effort to close 6 blocks. And at this point, Tompkins Avenue, the Merchant Association, TAMA, grew to about 30 businesses who, even through the pandemic, paid their dues and really worked with us on how do we plan this open streets that will revitalize the neighborhood, that will bring attention to what are the needs of the small businesses. And our hope was to help all the businesses collectively pivot. And part of that pivot was how do we partner with the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and then now having more partnerships with the Festival of New York to make sure that we become a destination. That beyond just trying to make sure our neighbors can come outside and patronize the businesses in their neighborhood in Bed-Stuy, Tompkins Avenue in particular, but it also helps support the other major corridors that have dining and shopping and just cultural activities. We also wanted to make sure that people outside of Bed-Stuy would look at this is the place to be. So we really made sure that our Tompkins Avenue, it was called Tama Sundays, was what we called a destination, that it was a vibe, it was a destination, but it was also about the community. Yeah. And that was our focus. And I think we were successful in trying to make that happen. Through our district needs assessment, we found out that some of our businesses lost about 70% of our businesses lost close to 70% of their revenue. Wow. Because of the pandemic. On Tompkins Avenue alone, they were about 75% of our businesses were able to regain their revenue. And some of them actually thrived because of this initiative, because of our opportunity to partner, and also because, being really creative. And one of the things that we're most excited about is making it a destination. We also were able to spend a little bit to really profile what is unique about some of our business corridors. And one of that is in Tompkins Avenue is also called Black Girls Magic Row. Because
who doesn't want to go to Black Girl Magic Row?
And we have, just on 6 blocks, we have, 7 blocks, I'm sorry, we have close now, because it's grown, about 19 businesses owned by Black women. And we have about 23 are owned by Black women in general, but 19 owned by Black women. And that's pretty amazing. And they have done an amazing job of really making this the destination in Bed-Stuy.
I think that's amazing. And I love that all of you, and Alexandra, if you want to talk a little bit more about how you do this at Coney Island. Yeah. But I feel like what you do is for small business owners who have to focus on their bottom line and their individual business, what you're able to do is sort of take the Uber narrative for all of them and be able to tell that story in a way that really draws both resources, get the data for all of them, and then bring this new audience that wouldn't normally just come to one store, but can really experience the whole of what is Harlem, what is Coney Island, what is Black Girl Magic Row. Can we go around and we'll just talk a little bit about how that all has been elevated and what new relationships have come out of that. So Mark, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I mean, Festival of New York is really a great extension of a partnership we have been building with Lincoln Center for the last few years, and now being able to partner with and be a part of Festival of New York to shine an additional light on Harlem Week in general, we're able to really focus in on something. When we talk about business, we also talk about the need for jobs and being able to work with Lincoln Center along with Idealist and LinkedIn and others on a jobs and career fair that is open to folks around the city. To come, and it'll take place on August 17th,
Yes.
And it'll be at the City College of New York, and it's a great opportunity for businesses to recruit, small businesses, larger businesses to be able to recruit, whether you're looking for people to work in your store or remotely. And it's also a great way to kind of share the narrative, because Harlem Week has always been it's a festival, but it's an economic engine as well.
Yeah.
And it's an economic engine for
There's a secret motivation.
for local businesses, but also for larger businesses as well,
Yeah.
and entrepreneurs. We talked off camera about the fact that Harlem Week. There's a lot of people come to Harlem Week for the entertainment, but they come for the vendors that they get to see. And those vendors come from all over the city and all over the region. So it really kind of helps drive the economics of Harlem and New York City in general, and to be able to work with Festival of New York, that the events of all of Harlem Week are promoted, but we can really hone in on this jobs and career fair, so we can really help in the true return of being back to normal, with people being able to work regularly, and we can have people get their jobs, and now they can work from home if they wish, and where that's available as well. So it's a very important aspect for us.
And you're touching so many sectors. I mean, I'll just put a fine point on that. That's with Indeed, Idealist, and LinkedIn. 3 seeming competitors who are now, because of Festival of New York, coming together to actually do this new kind of career fair in partnership with you at Harlem Week and with Lincoln Center. And it's been amazing to see. I think that the time for competition is kind of behind us, right? And this is a time to really come together and understand that we need people to have access to these jobs. Employers need access to people that want these jobs, and figuring out what those skills are. So I think that's a great example. And I think the other thing to just point out with Harlem Week and all of these festivals is a great way for New Yorkers to discover other neighborhoods, right? It's a great way for your neighborhood itself, but it's also a way to draw all of New York, because otherwise we just stay in our little...
Yeah, we stay in our little silo, we stay in our borough, we don't travel.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful highlight of a borough and of a neighborhood to really draw the rest of us there. So Alexandra, I want to turn to you and talk a little bit about what you're doing, and also, because I don't think we touched too much on it before, what you're doing in general for Coney Island.
Yeah, sure. So we had our first event last Saturday, the 9th. It was not last Saturday, so July 9th. And that was a car show. So what we sort of took advantage of is with Festival of New York, we also applied for Open Street. We took the only street that doesn't have parking in Coney Island, because that's a big issue as well, and programmed it. So obviously on the beach and boardwalk, you cannot have a car show. So we took advantage of that, and we worked with a club, basically an automobile club, to bring a bunch of classic cars to Coney Island, building on, obviously we're a historic destination, iconic. We had a bunch of iconic cars on the street, and that was just the beginning. So Saturday we're having a circus, all these things sort of building off the things that I think people think of with Coney Island, but we haven't had in Coney Island. So the circus is with the Bindlestiff Family Circus, so they'll be on the street performing in the heat, and hopefully that will be good. And then we have our sand sculpting, this is the 30th annual, so we're really excited to have that as part of the festival as well. So really building everything in with, our goal is foot traffic, and what we saw with the car show was, we had people coming, they told us from Westchester for this event, which I was pretty shocked. I don't think we usually draw from sort of that far away. So we know now, we want to build this bigger. We're hoping next year this will just be a bigger event, a cornerstone event, and really saw that the foot traffic was there in a way that it is not usually on a typical Saturday that early in the day.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, that's
so
really our goal.
Like larger level of visibility in general. That is partially from Festival of New York, partially from just people really wanting to re-explore the city, I think. In a new way.
And I think the other thing with the calls, which obviously I think everybody's in the midst of summer, but when we had the initial calls for Festival of New York, I know for me it spurred a lot of ideas because we're all sort of siloed and we have like our cornerstone things that we're doing, but having those calls and being connected with the libraries and the other organizations, I just have a lot of ideas. We couldn't necessarily pull everything off for this year, but it's this, the seeds and foundations for future years.
Yeah, and it's a great way to get connected to these other city resources of understanding when Open Streets happens, understanding when the Department of Transportation opens up spaces in your neighborhood, and having those contacts, I think, has been really invaluable, I know, for us as well. And Oma, do you want to talk a little bit more about Black Girl Magic Weekend and all of the other things that are happening at Tompkins Avenue?
Yes, I'm always excited to talk about Tompkins Avenue. And this year we had an opportunity to expand to Lewis Avenue. So we now have 2 corridors in the historic Bed-Stuy. But Black Girl Magic Weekend it's just incorporated in as part of Tompkins Avenue's Open Street. Having so many diverse businesses that people are just discovering. I think through this partnership with Festival of New York, our visibility has increased tremendously. And it has allowed for the businesses themselves to become very creative on what they would like to see on their corridor that they feel will drive traffic to the neighborhood. And as a result, like as I said before, it has become this destination. And it's also because people are now intrigued on what's going on in Bed-Stuy. We didn't know this was here. We hear this often of people. It's like, I didn't know this was going on. Some people would say they didn't know what was going on in the neighborhood. We lived down the block and didn't know this was happening. But it's also exciting to see, especially on social media, which has been very helpful in getting the word out through Festival of New York of what is happening in our neighborhoods, that people are like actually planning their vacation to come to Bedford-Stuyvesant so that they can see what was happening on Tompkins Avenue. And now expanding to Lewis Avenue, we've been able to offer more. Like we are having the dance hall party on with the library on Lewis Avenue, and we had the circus came to Bed-Stuy. Like we are able to offer more that people don't traditionally think of when they think of Bedford-Stuyvesant. But that makes it more exciting. So we had planned a Black Girl Magic Weekend in June, and had to reschedule. So we are planning it for later in August to actually profile more activities, having more artists who are, Black women, having, more of our elected officials who have been the footprint of what has been going on in Bedford-Stuyvesant for years. We are definitely making this a full celebration of music, of shopping, of course, and of entertainment. The music is also part of the fabric. But what also makes it exciting is that the business owners themselves, these are small businesses, and yes, we love to profile the amazing women on the block, but the amazing business owners as a whole. We're talking, over 40 small businesses on one corridor who are very active in not only making this a successful open street, but also making sure that their businesses thrive. And that is what makes this, really exciting. And their creativity on making sure that they know what people want to see. That it's not only a shopping experience, it's not only a dining experience, but it's also a just the whole vibe. And that's the best way to describe, and the excitement that we get is that when people go, this is a really good vibe here. This is, this is an open street where not only can we shop, we can eat, and we can discover new things about our neighborhood. It's also a fun place to be. It's also, it's anyone can show up and have a good time. And that's what we're looking for. And I think those are also our small businesses are looking for that opportunity themselves that maybe they can't afford to do, or they don't have the capacity to do solely by themselves, but through partnerships with organizations like ours, or through these additional resources that come from Festival of New York or through our chambers. It does provide them a real opportunity to do more and with a partner so that they can succeed. So, and that's what we're really excited about. And I think Black Girl Magic is just one of those amazing opportunities that we in Bed-Stuy are able to really be so proud of, and also help support as a way to really profile what our small businesses need in Bed-Stuy.
Yeah, I love that. It's sort of an all boats rise, right? If you're highlighting one facet of the organizations, then everyone's still continuing to come to that destination. And what I also love is that, people obviously have known about the cultural richness of Harlem and Coney Island, but this idea that it's possible to do this with your block right now, you could create a whole movement around getting people to come to your neighborhood and revitalize some of these neighborhoods or change the brand or through these partnerships. And I think one of the things about Festival of New York that maybe people don't know is that some of these organizations that are part of this are the Lincoln Centers and Harlem Week, but some of them are businesses of one and are volunteer run. So anyone can really be a part of Festival of New York and have access to these same networks, which I think is really amazing, and I hope a resource that people continue to take advantage of. I wonder if you all, speaking from your incredible expertise, have something you would say to somebody who's thinking about how I really want to start a small business, but here I've just seen the pandemic, I don't know, I'm not sure. What would be your advice to anyone thinking about starting a small business right now in New York?
Well, I think in Coney Island, we have a lot of retail space. We have a lot of development. So luckily, we haven't lost that many businesses during the pandemic. So I think we're a resilient area. I've worked in Coney Island after Superstorm Sandy and now after the pandemic. And very few businesses closed, which I think is just a sign of the types of businesses that we have. I think it's a great community to join. But we have all these beautiful brand new buildings and brand new spaces, and they're right now all vacant. I think there are some that are talking about coming in, but there's just a huge opportunity. There's a lot of new residents that are moving in addition to the 50,000 we already have. So I think now is the time really to take advantage and be sort of forward thinking. Maybe to negotiate a little bit on the rent. I don't know that, whether the landlords are being nice about that, but I do think, I'm seeing that there's a good path forward and that, I think it's going to be successful. So I'm hoping people will consider that.
That's great. A lot of possibility. I mean, one of the three tenets of Festival of New York are comeback, community, and collaboration. And it feels like that's in that, right? And you've already, as you mentioned, this isn't the first comeback.
Right,
There's been a few. This is a resilient city. Marco, do you have?
Yeah, I think what's key about this time is that there was a lot of, unfortunately, tragedy within the pandemic, but there's also opportunity. And we're in a great opportunity space, particularly for those who are looking to start a small business, because the working dynamic is so different. You can start out, with a brick and mortar business, or you can start out using resources that we can find through Festival of New York. To build collaboration and community, to start a business and come to some of these festivals, like doing things with Tompkins Avenue or doing things at Coney Island or Harlem Week and being a vendor and building your way to really starting your business. So I think there's opportunity to do that, and this is a great time, like you said, around collaboration and community to be able to, follow your dream, because resilience is the major part of starting a business. You're going to need to be resilient, whether it's a pandemic or you have to figure out how to pay the bills next week. Just because without a pandemic. So now can be a great time to start a business and use the resources that are available to you and find ways to work with all of us, and certainly through Festival of New York.
It's great. Oma?
I agree.
Co-sign.
It's an interesting time because I think as scary as it seemed about, we heard about closures and the high vacancy rates and loss, and that was definitely real. We've also seen many success stories of people expanding or, able to go from vendor to actually now having a commercial space and storefront. I think the other opportunities that these initiatives like Open Streets and some of the programs that have been out there that has been supported by Festival of New York and through the chambers is that there's so many resources to support entrepreneurs and small business owners who are moving from maybe home-based and will also want to now have a commercial space, that it might be the best opportunity. That these programs have also helped corridors that traditionally did not drive high foot traffic.
Yeah.
And now that is starting to happen. And it's also becoming a space that community members want to be outside. And so it's not only just to hang out, it's also to patronize their local businesses. And the high profile that many of these initiatives have given small businesses has also given many opportunities to try something new. As we say, collaborate. I'm seeing more businesses open up where there might be 2 or 3 kind of like pop-ups coming in one location. People are being a little bit more creative, but also the resources are there. How to start businesses, how to get resource loans and grants. And us bids and community development corporations like ours are also positioned to help support young entrepreneurs, any type of entrepreneur, and small businesses to take that leap if they so decide to do so. So I think it's a good opportunity to explore.
Yeah.
And I think the city is behind it also to make sure that if you are a small business or if you're an entrepreneur that would like to start a business, they want to make sure that you have all resources to make that happen.
Yeah, I think it's another example of really understanding this collective understanding that we have of why do people move to New York? What is it? And it's about this diversity of storefronts, the feeling like you really can experience the personalities, the multiple personalities of the business owners that are coming through their storefronts. And that's a huge part of why people come to New York, why people stay in New York. And so I think the city is definitely putting an enormous amount of resource into that. And then our chambers of commerce, that's a great place to start. And also, you mentioned BIDS, that's a business improvement district where folks really want to activate these public spaces, and how do you get involved in that in Open Streets, of course. So that's really a great place to start. And of course, all of your organizations will be a beautiful place for people to check out. And if not starting a small business, then just bring your checkbook to any of these spaces. And then I did want to point out, because I think this is such a part of it, that Harlem Week has so many virtual activities planned as part of it.
Yes.
So there's, even if you are watching this from your home in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you could still get a little bit of what Harlem has to offer on via your computer. Well, thank you all for joining me, and thanks to everyone watching for another discussion on how the Festival of New York is bringing New Yorkers together through collaboration and community. We thank our guests today and all of our 300+ coalition members for their dedication and love for our city. For more information on how you can participate and attend events, please check out festivalofny.com and on your social networks at Festival of NY. Until next time.